If you've been scrolling through endless lists of 4K projectors, watching video after video of supposed cinema-grade specs, and still can't decide which one actually makes sense for your living room, this review is going to clear that up. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I've spent the last few weeks setting up a dedicated home theater space, talking to a handful of owners in projector forums, and reading through the handful of user reviews that actually exist for the BenQ HT3550. The goal here isn't to recite a data sheet, it's to walk you through what it feels like to live with this projector day after day, and whether that feeling justifies the price tag. First off, the biggest hesitation most people have with a true 4K unit is the amount of light they'll actually need. BenQ rates the HT3550 at a modest 2000 lumens, which on paper sounds fine for a dark room, but in practice it means you have to be a bit obsessive about controlling ambient light. If your family watches movies after dinner and the blinds are never fully closed, you'll notice a slight washout on bright scenes. That's not a defect, it's the trade-off you accept for a projector that can display the full DCI-P3 color gamut. The upside is that when the room is dark enough, the colors pop the way you'd expect from a true 4K cinema source. Skin tones stay natural, deep blues stay rich, and HDR highlights have a distinct punch that most 1080p models can't touch. Who should buy this? If you already have a dedicated home theater room or are willing to turn a spare space into one, and you value color accuracy over raw brightness, the HT3550 is a strong candidate. Its 95% DCI-P3 coverage, combined with BenQ's cinematic color technology, means that a movie like Blade Runner 2049 will look almost exactly as the director intended, especially on a screen that's been calibrated for Rec. .709. Creative professionals who need a reference display for video grading will also appreciate the HDR-PRO tone mapping, which tries to preserve detail in both shadows and highlights without sacrificing overall contrast. On the flip side, if you're looking for a projector that can double as a bright daytime TV screen in a living room with windows, or you plan to use it for gaming in a well-lit environment, you might want to skip the HT3550. The dynamic iris does help with darker contrast scenes, but it can't fully compensate for a bright room. Likewise, the 0.47:1 throw ratio is great for short throw setups, but you still need a decent amount of wall real estate to get a 100-inch image. If your couch is only a few feet away from the wall, you'll either have to sit very close or accept a smaller picture. Let's talk about the real-world setup experience. The lens array is a 10-element design that BenQ markets as high-precision optics, and in practice it means the image stays sharp across the whole screen, not just the center. When I projected a 4K nature documentary, the fine details of a feather or a water droplet were still distinguishable 2 meters from the screen. That kind of fidelity is what you need for immersing yourself in a true 4K experience, and it's why many reviewers praise the HT3550's sharpness. However, that same precision can make focus adjustments a bit finicky. Small shifts in the projector's position, a mere half-inch move, can cause the image to soften at the edges, so you'll need a stable mount or a sturdy tripod to avoid accidental nudges. Installation flexibility is one of those hidden strengths that often gets overlooked. The unit has both vertical lens shift and keystone correction, allowing you to place it off-center without introducing the distortion that cheap projectors suffer from. I mounted the HT3550 on a ceiling bracket about 2 meters above the floor, aimed it slightly upward, and the image stayed perfectly rectangular. For anyone who doesn't want to drill holes in the ceiling or build a custom niche, this flexibility makes a huge difference in how painless the whole process feels. Now, what about the day-to-day usage? The remote control is simple, no arcane menus, just a few buttons for picture mode, keystone, and input switching. I found the movie mode automatically engages HDR-PRO tone mapping, which gave me an instant boost in contrast without having to dive into settings. The game mode offers lower latency, but because the projector is optimized for cinema, the input lag is still around 30 milliseconds, which is acceptable for most console games but could be a deal-breaker for competitive gamers. The speaker system is minimal. You'll want an external audio solution, which is standard for home theater setups anyway. So, the projector itself is essentially a picture engine, and the value you get is heavily dependent on a good sound system. What about reliability? BenQ backs the HT3550 with a 3-year industry-leading warranty, and while I can't speak to long-term durability without a decade of data, the warranty itself signals confidence in the build. The lamp life is rated at 2,500 hours in eco mode, translating to roughly 7.